Um, it's nice to have you here and for your interest in France. So first of all, France is one of the places that a lot of Anglophones do not consider, but I think it's one of the places that everyone should try to come to, not just for the culture, but for the fact that they have a lot of packages for students. And I didn't know this before coming, but if you school in France and you are below the age of like 26, you have a lot of discounts for even transportation. Even for me, for my first year here, what's it called? Opening a bank account, I wasn't charged anything at all for the first full year. There are lots of packages and all that. And aside that, whether you are a French student or a foreigner schooling in France, the government gives you an allowance for accommodation. So that's just one of, and the fees as well, because I know that I probably should have said this earlier before the breakout, but there's one thing that people do not know about France, and it has to do with the tuition. I know this is a scholarship webinar and people are seeking scholarship, but then you can have quality education in France for as low as 300 euros. And that is for masters. And I have attended a public university. That was for my first master, and the second master was in a private university. So that is relatively more expensive. And so, well, I will start my journey to France and then, talk a little after that about what has happened after that. Sorry. So I was introduced to the course that I studied for my first master, Finance and Economics, by a friend. And I checked it out. I checked out the school. I liked the course, the various, what's it called? Well, I liked the course anyway. And so I applied and then I got in, and that was in 2017. So I came here and it was great. It was an MSc, was for a year. So right after that, I actually wanted to do a PhD in finance. And so I applied for the PhD. I was selected as a candidate and all that. And I was just about to do it. And then I got an offer for another course in a private university this time. So the first university was a public university. And so the tuition was really, really low. It was like 300 euros for the whole course. That's because for France, the government pays 90-something% of the fees. And that's for public universities again. So for the second time, as I said, I was about to do the PhD and then I saw this offer and I took the second offer, even though it was a second master, because it was being sponsored by a company. So I was actually selected amongst a couple of students for a company. It's a multinational, actually. It's called Michelin in French, but in English it's more like Michelin. It's a tire company. And so the contract was for me to work with them as a manager and also to take my master degree, a second master degree. And so instead of the PhD, I decided to take that because that was job experience plus an additional degree. And I was like, sure, why not? I mean, PhD can come later in life. I'm not in a hurry. And so that is why I have two masters. And so the second one was more expensive because the school was a private business school. And usually those are very exclusive in France, so they are more expensive. But my company catered for everything. And I was working with them and getting paid as well. So it was a nice deal. So that is that. But even before coming to France, when I decided and selected the school and all that and applied, and so it was the usual stuff, your motivation letter, transcript from the university, and even from SHS. Well, I didn't, yeah. So my high school, my high school transcript, my university transcript, my letter of motivation, you know, the usual stuff. And then when I got accepted, I contacted Campus France. So Campus France is an organization that helps students who want to school in France, and it's for free. You don't pay anything. It's funded by the French government. So they ensure that all the right documents are set for you to get your visa. So I contacted them, and then, you know, they guided me through all the right things to get, to ensure that I was 99.9% sure I will get my visa. So that was that. And then in fact, even on the day for my visa, I was late because I was delayed in traffic. But then, even when I got there, the guy from Campus France had printed some documents that I was missing. So that's just to show you how helpful they are, and it's all for free. And so after that, there are some requirements. For instance, you need to have had, or to have a place to stay. You need accommodation for at least 3 months in order to get your visa. And you also need no less than 7,000 euros in your account to get the French visa. Aside that, all the rest are, you know, just regular documents like, what else? Yeah, I've forgotten the documents. They weren't a lot. Okay, I have the list here, so I could name them if they come up. But yeah, that was that. And yeah, I don't know if there's any other thing. So for France, yes, there aren't a lot of scholarships available, unfortunately. And a lot of the scholarships available are usually reserved for European students. And this is because the government pays like 90 something percent of the fees anyway. So, I mean, and if you're having to pay like 300 euros for education, that will cost like, I don't know, $15,000 in another country, then it's really a good bargain. So there aren't a lot of scholarships available for those who get scholarship. And I have met a couple of people who have, they either people who got scholarship from Ghana, so like KNUST has their department in KNUST has an affiliation with a certain school here in France, and then through that they got a scholarship, so they came right from KNUST to study here. So that's usually for the engineering and the science students. And okay, I don't know why I did the quotes, but engineering and science students. And also for languages, because I have met two people who came here on scholarship to study French. So I know for science and languages, especially if you're university or your department in the university back in Ghana has an affiliation with a university here, then you can get that scholarship. And as I said, there's not really scholarship for your tuition because the tuition is almost free anyway. Well, I think it covers the tuition, but I mean, it's just 300 euros. But the thing is that when you get a scholarship, you don't need that 7,000 euros that I, for instance, will need in my accounts before I come to France. So that is that. And um, since there aren't a lot of scholarship packages available, okay, there's one called IFO, but it's really difficult to get in because, again, education is not expensive here. But there is also the possibility, as with my second master, to be funded by a company. And so that is another option. And that is also not very easy to get into. In fact, when I got the interview, I didn't think I would get it because it was I and I think two French people, but I ended up getting it. And those also have some requirements. You have to be less than 26 years, and you also need to speak some French. So those are the attachments to that. So I don't know if this information is helpful enough, but um, regardless, you have really low tuition anyway for France. I don't know if this covers everything for everyone.
Yes, it covers a lot. Did you have to write any exam to determine your level of French proficiency before you gained admission?
No. So for that, no, not at all. And in fact, for a lot of the schools, well, especially if you are coming to study a course in English, both of my masters were in English. If it's 100% English, you don't need any French at all. So nothing. You just need an English proficiency letter from your university, because in Ghana we study in English, so you don't need to write an English exam anyway. My friends from other countries like Vietnam and China, other countries generally, that do not have English as their language of instruction, had to take, was it TOEFL, I think. But you don't need it because you are coming from Ghana, so you only need an English proficiency letter. That's all.
Okay, thank you. There's a question. She's asking, which scholarship did you study in France? Was the name of the scholarship?
I did not.
Yes, I think you missed the first part of your presentation, so kindly go over that.
Okay. So I did not come to France
with a scholarship, yeah.
Yeah, with a scholarship, no.
Yes.
The thing is that in France, the tuition is low anyway. And honestly, I didn't know this until I wanted to, after my national service, I was looking for what's next. And someone said in the bigger forum earlier that where she was working, there was a lot of bureaucracy. It was a similar thing. I did my national service at GRA, and I didn't know whether the name of the scholarship. Okay. And I didn't know whether I was going to get a job after that, and I didn't want to take the chances. And so I didn't know much about France, but then I found out then when I was ready to apply that you actually don't pay much. So I didn't come on scholarship. As I said, my tuition was just about 300 euros because the government took like 90 something % of it. It's just a policy in France. They want to change it now, but hopefully, well, we hope that they don't.
The 300 euro, is it for a whole academic year or for one semester?
It's for the whole academic year.
Oh, wow. So they want to change it to make it free or to increase it?
To increase it. So the thing is that, so yeah, for my second one, it's not, even though my second one was some sort of scholarship, it's not a typical scholarship. As I said, I was funded by my company. And so,
yes.
Yeah, it's called a work study program. It's called alternance in French. And so the company funds you, you work with them as an employee, you get paid every month. And so they are basically investing in you. So it's not your typical scholarship, but that's also an option. So that's,
okay.
Yeah.
How easy is it for international students to work and study in France at the same time, especially for your first master's? Because the second one, I'd say you're almost a citizen. But for the first one, is it really easy for anyone who just comes from, let's say, Africa to get such opportunities?
Yes. Well, I guess so. Wow. The truth is that I can't give you a yes or no answer because one thing.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes. Should I go on?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so one thing I have realized about abroad in general is that what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. And so, sorry, I saw the question, that's why I got distracted. And so I won't give you a yes or no answer, but it helps if you can speak some French,
Okay.
And also it helps if you can make the right connections. I think this applies to every part of the world, because in fact, the one who forwarded my CV was my a professor. And as I said before, I wanted to do PhD, and so I was taking a specialized course. No, it wasn't a special, it was, we call it research qualification. So that's to ensure that you are a researcher. And it was a 5-month course. And then one of the professors I met there was actually the one who forwarded my CV for the second one. And, you know, that, I think that helped. And so there's no thing to do, there's no special thing to do, and I can't tell you whether it's easy or not, but you know, you have to just play your cards well, you have to study, get good grades, etc. Yeah.
Okay, we have 2 minutes more to end this. There's two questions from Nanaya actually. Did you see a lot of Africans in your class, and is France racist?
I did see a lot of Africans in my okay, well, for my first master, I saw quite a lot of Africans. There were other Ghanaians as well, so it was fun. But for the second one, and I think that it's because the second school is really expensive, you know, it was more than 11,000 euros. And so, you know, not everyone can afford that, especially if you don't have a scholarship. And so for that, there were still a couple of Africans. I mean, there were even we were like 3 or 4 Ghanaians in the school, you know, but you know, there were other Africans as well. But France is not this question. Okay, so I think that once you are Black, you should expect some sort of racism. I feel that I may have been denied some opportunities simply because I'm Black, but I don't know. You know, I just don't know. Normally you can only know from hindsight, but yeah. And normally people are normal here. You don't hear people insulting or, I don't know, discriminating openly.
Haven't really experienced it so openly.
Yeah. So that's to answer the question whether it's so, but you know, as a Black person, you know that certainly you may be denied some things, you may be discriminated in some way that you may or may not know. So yeah.
Okay. The next question from Samira Ibrahim: how was your experience outside of campus?
Campus.
Yes, your experience outside of campus. So
campus here in France or in
France, sorry.
In France.
So, yeah.
Well, we don't really live in campuses in France, and I think in Europe generally, a lot of the schools, just okay, they have a campus, but you don't live in like KNUST. The experience isn't like KN. I don't know where Samira is from, but for a place like KNUST, we had halls on campus. So it was always fun, the students' life and all that. But here is more of this university.
The community.
Yes, and you have to move from your apartment into your university, your department, or that sort. So we don't live on campus itself. But I happen to live in a student city, so there are a lot of young people here, and there are a lot of parties. I don't go out much, so I can't talk too much about that. But then you can always have fun if you want to. There are a lot of student associations, and there are student residences, and so you can get to experience the student life if you want. But I don't go out much. I live in my own apartment, and you know, but it's still nice. It's cool.
Okay, last one, then we end. Okay. Is there a centralized application system for applying to France, like the way there's UCAS for the US?
So I think for France, it will be Campus France. If you go on the Campus France website, all the guidelines, and they have an office in Kumasi and one in Accra as well. You have people who will help you, similar to UKEAS, UCAS. Yes, yeah. So yeah, it's Campus France. There is something like that, but most of the time, I think that it helps if you can apply to the school and get the school before you get the help of Campus France for your visa processing, because a lot of people go there and I don't know, may not get the necessary attention maybe, So for me, I applied to the school, I got into the school, and then I went to them. But I know that you can still go to them for recommendations of school to apply to and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Marina, for your time this evening and sharing this valuable application process information for us. Campus France especially is a keynote there, and the fact that it's quite difficult to get a scholarship to study in France. But I like the bit about the fact that you're studying in an English university, because you don't get to hear a lot of that. So it's like, oh, you want to go to France, you should be able to speak French to a certain level.
right.
And so yes, that really helps. It makes it more possible and more realistic to get to know that we can all go to France. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's difficult to get scholarships, but anyway, most of the tuition is free. So
okay, so if you can get to pay for accommodation and your living expenses, then you should be good to go.
yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Chevening is going to start in the next 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. So let's get ready for that. There's a link in the chat in case you want to join USA or MasterCard scholarship instead of staying here to listen to Chevening. Thank you very much.